Through the first 6 months of the year, I've been waiting for the film. With no disrespect to the crop of movies that have come out so far this year, as plenty of them have been great and even better, but I've been waiting for something to make me feel like Sinners or One Battle After Another last year did. Something to really make me rise out of my seat. Enter the Odyssey, the newest film from Christopher Nolan. Ever heard of the guy? Odds are you have, and likely for good reason too. Not only has the guy been churning out pretty huge and innovative new films every 2 to 3 years now, he's also doing so while championing for theaters and the film industry as a whole. It's easy to like the guy. Well, with all that in consideration, as well as my fondness for both Oppenheimer and Tenet, I was really anticipating this movie. And did it live up to the hype? Let's talk about it. Slight spoiler warning. I try my best to avoid any specific story changes Nolan made, but this video will pretty openly discuss the general plot points of the Odyssey that this movie tackles, and partially how it does so. The Odyssey, directed by Christopher Nolan, is based on the poem of the same name. It tells the story of Odysseus, the king of Ithaca and legendary warrior from the Trojan War. We watch his long, perilous journey as he attempts to travel home to his wife Penelope and son Telemachus. Where to start with this one? An obvious touchpoint for me when watching this film was Oppenheimer, and this being Nolan's follow-up to what I consider possibly the most totemic and grand movie in his filmography, as well as this decade. To take on what is, in all considerations, sort of the story of all time is quite the task, but also something that Nolan has, in a sense, always been chasing. I have to give credit where it's due. I heard this exact verbiage from the Big Picture podcast, and how Amanda Dobbin specifically put it, Nolan has always been making the Odyssey, just his own way. While I have to give credit to Amanda for putting the words together nicely, it was a feeling I had during the movie. As much as Oppenheimer, this feels like a deeply personal story to Christopher Nolan, and his career and persona feel intertwined into the text of the story. Odysseus, much like J. Robert Oppenheimer, feels like a clear Nolan analog. A hyper-competent man whose skill is well respected, and then who finds himself responsible to lead those who admire him, at great cost to them, the world, himself, and his relationships to those he loves most. Something I bet Nolan couldn't relate to at all. Much like Inception, which I rewatched a few days ago, I found myself continually noticing or assuming that much of the text of this film is related to the idea of making movies. Nolan, much like Odysseus, completes a great task with many collaborators, but finds himself alone receiving most of the credit and success. But I'm just hammering at the, in my opinion, sort of obvious subtext that Nolan has been doing in almost all of his films since The Dark Knight. But he's purposely retreading old water at points in this film. It feels like, to an extent, he has to. Considering how important this work is, it feels pretty foolish for him to do anything but that. And you can see it all over Odysseus, a man riddled with the guilt of his greatest work, his defining moment in two ways, one we learn about differently throughout the film. It's, in my opinion, a really rich and innovative reading of the text. My favorite thing Nolan is tackling here, and once again, I think it's something he tackled really well and in a really interesting way in Oppenheimer, just to masterfully and in a whole new way explore that same topic here, is hubris. Pride has always defined Nolan's characters, specifically his protagonists, Bruce Wayne, Dom Cobb, Oppenheimer. Many of the men leading his films are defined by their arrogance or overwhelming confidence, men who just think too much of themselves. This is all over Odysseus, and the terrific performance from Damon is accentuating that feeling too. A man whose pride cost many of his crewmates their lives, and himself 10 years of his own. There's not many changes made to the main story here, but one small change towards the end of the first act was really interesting to me, and really hammered in what I thought the movie was going for as far as pride and hubris. Also, once again, Nolan is exploring guilt and the weight of it, how it changes us, how it lives with us, and how it consumes us. I don't want to spoil it, but there's a shot and moment the film keeps teasing. Think Oppenheimer's line to Einstein that isn't revealed until the very end. I kept thinking it was investing too much in this moment, and it would be hard for Nolan to pull this sort of trick off again, but he did so. I think not only did it really help to bookend the movie in just this incredible way, but it paid off so much of what the film was going for thematically too. I know people joke about Nolan being a mostly technical guy. I even just did in my Tenet review on Letterboxd, but my god, has the man really proved to me in his last few films that few people in the industry understand story and can craft as nuanced of films as he does. Of course, though, this being a Nolan film, it is inevitably a technical masterpiece in many ways. Starting with the structure, it should come as no surprise to anyone, especially those who've seen his recent body of work, that Nolan isn't very interested in telling this story in a linear and direct way. Much like Oppenheimer, there is a direct through line in the Odyssey, but one that's been obfuscated. From the opening of the movie, we're already moving backwards, with the first scene taking place basically at the end of the story or right before it. Much of Nolan's new story structure style and general narrative layout can be credited to Jennifer Lame, who he's been working with since Tenet. Lame has really added a new life and invigorated feeling to his movies. Even with the past 3 films taking structurally similar paths, I found myself fascinated and recaptivated by each time. It gives these films a much more energetic and dynamic feeling, and I have to give that credit to her. I predicted when discussing how I expected this movie to go that I assumed it wouldn't feel as kinetic or energetic as Oppenheimer, and that it would likely be a much more oppressive and grueling movie in a good way. Oppenheimer is a movie that seamlessly switches between bursting at the seams with energy and slowly and methodically letting a sequence build out. While I was right to some extent, the movie definitely still has that very snappy and fast-paced energy that Lame has deployed in all of her Nolan projects. But the movie does feel a bit more held back consistently, much more meditative, and it was a welcome variation from his previous films. I will say, there are points during the first 2 acts where this movie does feel a bit jumbled or clunky. You could feel the story trying to breeze through beats to reach later moments, and while I definitely found that the ends justified the means, I can't deny that in the moment, it felt noticeable. This is now Nolan's 5th partnering with Hoyt van Hoytema, who is, I'll be honest, maybe my favorite cinematographer still working today, or at least very high on that list. It should come as no surprise that the guy who shot Interstellar and Dunkirk, and even more recently, Jordan Peele's Nope and then Oppenheimer, has nailed scale. Something Nolan understands more than most filmmakers, and something Hoyt van Hoytema understands more than most cinematographers, is building out scale. This movie feels as grand and big as it should. I don't want to spoil the specific set pieces, but there were a few sequences that genuinely had my mouth agape. Notably, there's an encounter in the forest with these knights who are terrifying and just have this incredible on-screen presence, and Hoyt makes them feel so huge and menacing. I love the Troy sections of the film, and the real knock your socks off sequence is the Cyclops, which lasts only about 10 minutes at most, and left such an impact on me for the rest of the movie. The size and scale of it is done so well, and in a very unique way that made the Cyclops kind of feel like something I hadn't seen before, or hadn't seen in a movie in quite some time. There's a specific moment in that cave, one you already know if you've seen the movie just by me mentioning the scene, that genuinely kind of unnerved me and scared me in a way that I hadn't ever felt in a Nolan film before. Nobody is doing spectacle and scale like them, and this film felt like a demo reel just proving that over and over again. Also, if you thought the sound was booming in Oppenheimer, go ahead and check this one out in IMAX. This is the loudest movie I've seen in quite some time. That is both a compliment and slight complaint. Sure, it can be annoying and a bit overwhelming at times, but it's a key part of his style now, and I kinda like that he just won't let go of it. The final note I'd like to make about the technical elements is that Ludwig Göransson is really in his bag this year. I'm quite serious when I say he clearly deserves to win back-to-back Oscars. The Mandalorian and the Grogu score was great and far better than the movie deserved, but oh my god, is he really going for it here. It's probably my favorite score of the year so far. It's just magnificent work. It feels important to discuss the performances, as this is a movie full of many of them. Once again, going back to Oppenheimer, Nolan has identified a really effective and simple trick called mostly casting really famous people you like and know in his large ensemble. So when you cut back to that character, even if you forgot their name, which you likely will, you can easily remember who they are and what they want. The Odyssey is pulling that same trick. Even forgetting half the characters' names, just immediately seeing Robert Patinson, or John Leguizamo, or Himesh Patel made it really easy for me to just keep on track with the movie. Starting with the man up front, Matt Damon is really giving it his all here. It's a very restrained but vulnerable performance. Odysseus is not someone who is showing his overwhelming emotions often, barring a few moments, but when Damon lets it slip through, you immediately feel it. Damon also has this ineffable charm and presence that makes him legendary and large before we even get to really know him. His screen presence adds a lot to the character. This movie sort of cemented to me that Hathaway is probably just going to win Best Actress this year, and it's pretty deserved. If you consider how great she is in both Devil Wears Prada 2 and her really stunning work in Mother Mary, and then you add in just how good she is here, it sort of feels like they are already engraving her name on the trophy. Hathaway doesn't get nearly as much time or material here as she does in those other films, but she's arguably as effective still. Her performance feels really sincere and tender. I found her resentment and frustration with how those around her view her to be really powerful, and I think she does a lot to help the ending land so well. Robert Pattinson is just killing it. He's such a terrific heel and the most slimy guy on earth. I love what he's going for basically the entire time. I really enjoyed Bernthal's performance. Leguizamo is great. Zendaya was really effective in my opinion, and similarly to Damon, has an immediate screen presence that adds to the character and the performance so much. I love that Himesh Patel gets such a big role in this movie, and I really liked what he was going for. He plays off Damon so well, and I was just so glad to see him in this movie so much. I loved both Benny Safdie's little monologue and Elliot Page's subdued but thematically important role in the film, who also really nails a terrific little monologue. But I was truly blown away by Tom Holland, an actor I've never disliked, but also one I've never been a massive fan of. Holland is really great here. From his first scene, I was pretty much locked into what he was going for. I like how he uses what we expect from him and continues to invert that in these really unique ways. In my opinion, it's maybe the most interesting performance in the entire movie, which could be my pure shock at just how great he is in this film, or just a testament to how good he is here. Especially considering how much more of the narrative he carries than I expected, he handles it really well. Nolan is a guy who just continues to captivate me. This latest stage of his career particularly has really gripped me, in a way I'm not entirely sure how to explain. His fascination with time, role and responsibility, the erosion of systems and belief systems, the decay of men, are all really intriguing concepts to me. The further he goes, the more I find myself thinking about his work long after. It's been over 2 years since I've last seen Oppenheimer or The Prestige, and both those movies are films I think about often to this day. With The Odyssey, Nolan's gone back to the root of storytelling in a sense. He's tackled his white whale, the thing he's always been chasing, and it's sort of mesmerizing to watch someone tackle a project like that and then to just execute it as well as he has here. I like The Odyssey. Heck, I'm willing to go as far as to say I love it. And with nearly every Nolan film, the hangups and issues I have with them typically sit with me a lot better with subsequent viewings. So we'll see how this movie grows with me the more time passes. That's about going to do it for this one though. So as always, thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe. Follow me on Letterboxd and Substack, and go watch The Odyssey and let me know what you think.